What is going on YouTube and Facebook? And welcome to Ignite Thursday. Yes, another Ignite Thursday where we like to discuss ways to improve yourself. Ultimately, what I like to do is provide you guys information on the three pillars that have essentially helped me progress in my life, helped me leverage up in my life. And ultimately, tonight is about leveraging assets. Now, this is something that came up last week about talking about finances and plant-based stuff a little bit more. So today I wanted to kind of talk about leveraging assets in themselves as far as the financial space goes. This might not be everybody's cup of tea. I know it's one of those things that a lot of people talk about that aren't really exciting. Finances is kind of one of those dirty things we've never really been taught about. And so, being said, I wanted to kind of hit on that. And that's ultimately what I try to do with Discover Ignite is hit on a lot of the things that we aren't really taught. What I've learned and share those things with you guys. That's why I have Discover Ignite. Again, why I try to help teach you guys these different things, these concepts and ideas that I've come across. Because a lot of times you will uh, come across particular things that we don't get educated very well on. And it's actually funny because this past week I had an interview for a podcast, and the guy's name is Chris, and I was talking to him. Chris and I were talking about curiosity and stuff, and one of the biggest things we talked about was just we kind of got on the topic about Bitcoin, which is something I'm going to kind of talk about a little bit today. But ultimately, him and I were talking about just peer to peer and people one-on-one action, and just about a lot of different things about how we're kind of going back to a more simplistic kind of model and essentially economy, right? Essentially, where we are working peer to peer, exchanging, trading with each other, as opposed to having that third man and removing that third man, right? Because essentially, that third man is essentially price gouged us for so many years without our know-how and acknowledgement of that, or just realizing that third party is there, and now starting to see things starting to pull away more from that, and realizing how much more beneficial it is to you having having that financially being financially secure by maintaining that particular part of your life by yourself. Now, I know it could seem very overwhelming. I was one of the kind of people that was kind of thinking about all this stuff being overwhelming too when I first got into it. But I'll be honest with you, actually doing it and stuff, I've really enjoyed it. I've allowed to be able to fully control, essentially my destination by doing this, by taking control of these things. That's why I teach about the mindset and stuff. And the three different pillars is trying to provide you perspective on everything that's going on, especially with these three particular pillars, because they can help you level up. And again, in that, when I was talking to Chris, like the big thing about that was, we talked about how, a lot of different times we get caught up in, and if that person has a degree or if that person has a certification, well, if you're not certified, you can't talk about it. And he was telling me about how he was going through different things in his life and therapy, and how it didn't really fix anything for him. But when he, hired a coach, hired an entrepreneur, or whatever the case was, he realized that he was progressing better because you are essentially dealing with a practitioner as opposed to somebody that is perhaps just regurgitating what comes out of a book. And I think a lot of times, I've even stated it many different times that, I read a lot and stuff like that, but when I try to apply it and be a practitioner of it, what's going on, Angela? How you doing? And when I try to be a practitioner of it, the biggest thing I've realized is that it doesn't always work that way, right? A book gives you guidelines, but you have to ultimately essentially mold that to your lifestyle and the way you think, and apply that to your life, right? And if it works, it works. It doesn't, and then continue on and moving forward. So, in saying that, again, tonight I wanted to talk about leveraging your finances, right? Again, something we're not really taught, and I think for good reason. And you can go into all kinds of tinfoil stuff about this, but I think there are have to understand, like, as far as like the economy goes, I'm not trying to make this economic classroom session here, because that's not at all what I'm trying to do. But just understand that the economy in itself needs people to essentially feed the system, right? Or the system doesn't work, right? You have to have people that go 9 to 5, because if they don't, what's going to feed the system? What's going to do, pay the taxes and all these other things? And I'm not trying to get boring. I know it may sound boring, but you have to understand some of the light framework of why these things are put in place. Not everybody's going to want to be an entrepreneur. I get that. And not everybody is going to be motivated to want to do that. Not everybody's wanted to go ahead and be motivated to take upon their own finances, because it can seem very overwhelming, but I can guarantee you, if you can, do the minimum, right? It's not a big thing too here is to understand that we like to overly complicate things as opposed to keep them simple. If you keep it simple things, simple systems always make success happen. If you overcomplicate it, it adds a couple layers of difficulty in there that don't need to be there. So you always want simple systems will help you become more successful in whatever avenue it is in life. And I've talked about this, always having the same kind of framework, no matter what it is that you are trying to change in your life. Yes, it is, Angela. I do apologize. I didn't know if you could hear that or not. It likes to make an appearance every now and again. But as far as like, so simple systems, they help you achieve the things that you want. And when you're talking about like finances, I don't want to do like, personal finances. Personal finances are simple, right? Like if you spend less than you make, obviously. And this is why I also talk about, trying to be a minimalist and remove things from your life and realize how much more you get more you get more in tune with yourself, right? And when you start decluttering your life, you realize even when you're doing spring cleaning, right? It's coming around that time. You clean up your house, you feel better about it, right? It's like a release of getting rid of old stuff. And you can do this with your phone. You can do this with your house, right? Having that minimalistic approach to life and realize that I don't need all these stuff to fill that void. I am enough, right? This goes all back to the mindset. But ultimately understanding that if you can be a minimalist, it helps with a lot of different things, and allowing yourself to unplug and allowing yourself to be okay sitting in silence and doing all these things. It takes effort, right? And I talk about slowly, gradually doing that, but this will ultimately help with the desire to want stuff and fill that void and purchasing things that may be out of your control, right? Because we forget that, again, we're in that system, that ecosystem, that we need people to consume, or else the machine doesn't work. And so you have to understand that's where I'm coming from. It's the way the whole system is set up. And so if people aren't consuming, right, you should be, if you really want to progress in life, you want to be the producer and not the consumer, ultimately. And so, and understanding that it's going to take time, right? Like you have bad habits that we need to fix to understand that. But a lot of times we just need the perspective and understanding, especially when you come to the financial realm, and understand that personal finances, that in a whole, that essentially solves that whole piece, is becoming more, it's not saying you can't buy nice stuff, right? It's just being frugal, buy high quality stuff. You just don't need everything, right? And understanding that that's how you solve that particular issue. There's nothing complicated about that. That it's basically what it is. And I know there's, again, we want the let's just fix it all kind of thing. You want to fix it all, well, then become an entrepreneur. And then you're, the sky's the limit when it comes to having cash flow, ultimately, and understanding that. Also understanding that there's risk to that, and that can also take a lot of cash away as well, right, on the risk. But it all comes, everything that you do, the financial realm, you should have some kind of risk tolerance. You should be taking some kind of risk depending on your age. Again, this is not financial advice. That's one thing I should state out, because this is more for like entertainment purposes and just what has helped me. But understanding that personal finances, again, is something that if you can get a hold of, you can help. Because ultimately what you're trying to do, when I talk about leveraging your finances, right, you got to get a hold of the cash flow. You got to get a hold of where your money's going. You got to know where it's going, right? You may have like 5 different subscriptions. You didn't even know you're subscribed to that magazine, right? Like, audit your stuff? Like, where are your subscriptions, right? Like, cut them off. Are you really using it? Do you really need, you know, HBO Max and Netflix and Disney Plus and all these other, and cable? Do you really need all that stuff? Especially, right, that's money. That's $50. All that stuff adds up, where you can put that $50 on something else. Now, I'm not saying I'm not a penny pincher at all. That's not the way I see things. I don't go out, and if I want a Starbucks, right, I'll buy a Starbucks. What's there? I don't think you should ever have to penny pinch like that. You just got to get the skills and the know-how on how to benefit yourself from it. And to be able to do that, you need to leverage the cash flow, the money that you do have. And that's one thing to change, right? Because a lot of times we want to increase, minimum wage and stuff. It's great, but you should know how to leverage your money. And that's one thing I was never taught, right? You don't get taught in school unless your parents are going to teach you it, which most parents don't know how to do it. I didn't know how to do it until I got older, but ultimately know on how to do it. How do you leverage your money? How do you make your money make more money? And a lot of times we just rather give it to somebody else, figure it out, because I think it's just too complicated. Again, we go back to the whole, I like to overcomplicate things because I don't have a understanding of it. And this goes back to being curious, right? And not just going surface level on things, but going, like my good friend Tony Taylor says, go 5 whys deep, right? That's important. You need to go 5 whys deep, because just 1 or 2 whys isn't really going to get you the understanding and the know-how of how to thoroughly understand the way something works. And when you talk about finances, I was the same way. I was, surface level, 1 or 2 whys deep, and that was about as far as I went. And then I started getting into, well, what are the best investments? Learn that, a business is the best source of cash flow, because the sky's the limit, right? Where if you have a job, you can get a skill, like I did for many years, right? I would always try to level up, getting one of the best professions out there, and still understand that there's still a cap to it. And not only that, but you're also getting taxed tremendously. And so now you got to look at, well, how can I not get taxed as bad? And this is where it comes into assets, right? And right now we're really living through a time where you want to try to allocate as much money, free money, into essentially your assets, because with the scare of inflation and everything, your assets are going to appreciate greatly during this time. It's the easiest time to ever become wealthy is right now. And what is going on with the amount of money that's being pumped into the system, with the amount of opportunities we currently have, it's important to know that and get as many high quality assets as possible, right? Like if you own your house, that is a big asset. In other different things, I'm not talking about like cars. Cars are not assets. You have to understand the difference between an asset and a liability, right? That's extremely important. I know we like to think that a car is an asset, but it is not. It's a liability. Whatever is essentially taking money out of your pocket, right, is something that you need to understand, and understand that, like the stock market, right? I'm heavily in the stock market. I actually started doing crypto and stuff as well, which is something new to me and something very new to a lot of people. But you have to understand that this is where you can really leverage up, and you can even get into real estate and stuff like that too, which is something I'll eventually get into, but not currently at the moment. But ultimately understand that if you can allocate as many or obtain as many assets as you can right now, with what you can, and get to where you need to get. And the thing is you need to know how to make money, right? Like maybe you have a job and you realize that, this job really isn't paying a lot, but you can start a side hustle. And the fastest way to get, extra cash flow in is to flip stuff. This is what everybody's been doing. This is where you hear about, Amazon FBA and all that stuff. You may think it's a scam and all this stuff, but this is the way the economy works, right? People, even the big supermarkets, right? They buy it from wholesalers and they resell it to you. There's always a third man in the middle. And understanding this, you can eliminate the third man by being that person and flipping the stuff, and you be the third man and essentially taking that profit, right, and getting cash flow. And so this is why you're talking about looking at different aspects of your life. Sorry if that's like echoing on the microphone. I'm not sure if that's echoing on the microphone, but this will generate cash flow, right? And that's ultimately what we want to do. And you take that cash, essentially put it back into something like stocks or cryptocurrencies, right? I think right now, a lot of people don't know a lot about the crypto market. I am just learning about it. I knew of it. I've invested in it a couple of years back, but now I'm actually getting more into it. So if I had 10K, where would I invest it today? That's interesting, right? The biggest thing here is 10K for the normal person. I would say, you want to try to invest it in either one. I'd probably say the safest way is probably the stock market right now because it's the quickest to be accessible to. If you can get a hold of property, I would say invest it in property because value of property is always better. And if you can have a recurring revenue from like a rental or something would be ultimate. But if you don't want to go that route, I would say, stock market. And when I talk about stock market, this is where it's up to you to have to look for companies that you think are going to be around for the next 10 to 20 years, right? Not some company that you hear in the headlines that's like, oh, that sounds really nice and flashy, and I hear it all the time, it must be really good. It has to be something that perhaps you use, or perhaps something you have a good knowledge base about, and put your money in that, right? And I hear a lot of people talk about diversification and stuff like that, and that's another big myth that you hear, but it's crammed down our throats, is diversification. When you're talking about stocks, this is where the due diligence comes in. You pick, 3 really good companies that you believe are going to last for the next 10 years, and you got to remove the whole original thought process. No problem, Angela. The whole original thought process of buying something like a dividend stock or something like that, because you have to realize that there's things that are called growth stocks, right? Which is like innovative companies like Teslas and your like Amazons and stuff like that are making changes in the world. And we have to understand, this is also too what is important when you're talking about assets, is right now we're at a very pivotal point in our lives, right? We had the pandemic, and we've noticed the changes that it's making is forcing us into new technologies, right? Bitcoin is becoming huge. If you don't know anything about cryptocurrencies are slowly taking over. It's going to be the next, essentially, internet, right? Imagine the big change internet had. Cryptocurrencies and blockchain are changing the world underneath our noses. And it was something I briefly knew about, but diving more into it, it's been going on for a long time, and it's built a big surface level. And now that it's on PayPal, Amazon, a bunch of other different restaurants, and I even saw today wineries are starting to accept cryptocurrency. And because you're eliminated the third man, right? You don't have a bank that is essentially sitting there telling you or giving you, like, paying you extremely small percentage on your money, right? To essentially make tons and millions of dollars off of your money, right? And that's something to understand, the way banks work. When I got into the whole understanding of the stock market and stuff, to really see how a bank really works, a lot of people would be extremely upset if you know how a bank worked and how much you're getting ripped off with your money just sitting in accounts. Again, not financial advice. I don't believe you should have a savings account that just sits there and collects dust, especially if we have an inflationary time right now. And so cryptocurrencies is something that is still a little risky. Even where I come from, I only have a small portion of my assets in crypto, but you don't need a lot in crypto. And crypto is something that is growing so fast. It's essentially like the stock market in its infant stage. So just imagine that, and imagine the amount of growth that is about ready to happen is going to explode on that side of the house. But being said, you should still always maintain fiat currency is also something that is eventually going to go away. People don't want to think it will, but if you know anything about currency, fiat money, it used to be backed by gold. But nowadays, it is not backed by gold anymore, right? We were taken off the gold standard a long time ago. So there's nothing that backs the dollar. So people will say that, well, cryptocurrencies aren't backed by anything. Anything that gives it value is two parties essentially coming together, saying that it does provide value, right? And cryptocurrency is becoming that. Bitcoin will eventually be the new gold. And so, being said, you can see the price of crypto skyrocketing, and they're saying, predicting Bitcoin will hit 100K this year, if not 150K this year. So I'd say going out and buy Bitcoin, right? I think it should be a small portion of whatever wealth creation you're trying to create. But being said, again, this is not financial advice. I'm just sharing my experiences on what I see and what I essentially see every day, right? Because I immerse myself in the stock market and the economy and what's really going on, and understanding this is something that isn't going to go away. That I know even cryptos have gotten like a bad rap because essentially where it's come from, right? They used to talk about it being black market a lot and stuff like that, but there's more behind it than that. It's the technology behind it is going to change our lives forever. And a lot of people will have issues trying to adjust to that. And being a programmer and stuff like that, I've seen, right, like the older generations have problem with change. And you have to realize that there is major change going on underneath their noses. Again, cryptocurrency is taking over a lot of stuff. Amazon, Walmart, they've all invested. They're investing in crypto. Walmart, I think next month will come out with the fact that they've bought a bunch of crypto as well, because it is changing. To be able to just go on your phone or anywhere and be able to just pay for stuff with cryptocurrency is going to be a real thing. You will no longer use fiat money. Fiat money will eventually go away, right? It's all essentially digital anyway. And so now you have a record of where that money is going, a record of your assets, a record of all these different things that nobody can essentially fudge anymore. So, I mean, just being a technologist as well, it really intrigues me with the way it's working and the way everything is taking over, and understanding that where you need to shift your focus, right? Because when I talk about like even the stock market, and you're looking at the three or four companies that you're really interested in, you have to look at, again, innovation and those things that are going to change for the next 10 years, right? And even like Tesla, a lot of people like to think that Tesla is a car company. It's not a car company. It's an energy company, right? There's a lot more behind that. You have to understand that they're changing the way we live, ultimately, and understanding where that goes, right? And realizing that you may never own a car again, realizing that it's coming to a point to where you will just pay for a service, pay for a taxi service. The Tesla taxi service, I don't remember what that service is going to be called. It's supposed to be rolled out, and then no longer driving, right? And being completely autonomous driving in the next 5 years. It's a possibility, and realize that these things are coming down the pipe. And a lot of times it's hard to realize that, but being a technologist, being immersed in technology, being immersed in the economy, I'm seeing all these changes, and I see them way before they even become like headline news. And so you just have to prepare yourself and be knowledgeable about it, because again, not all this stuff is out there. And realizing that when you're looking at these companies, again, look for those ones that are going to change the world, and with the new technology, ultimately, is what I'm saying. Because a lot of the companies that we grew up with, if they don't innovate, they're not going to make it anymore. And we're starting to see that, right? There's a lot of mom and pop shops that are closing down. You have to be able to integrate with what's coming in the works. And that is innovating in new ways. It's robotics, that's 3D printing. There's a lot of different things that go behind it, because of inflation, we're going to be essentially forced into having to build stuff cheaper. We're going to be forced to, not own a car, right? If you pay $25 for a service, why not pay that as opposed to essentially buying a car, right? Right now, growing up, again, you're feeding the system. You have to realize that if you're not consuming, right, the economy can't go, right? And that's what essentially the Fed and everything is dealing with right now, is that people are saving their money. And because of what has happened, right? We've gone through, because of the pandemic, people have saved more money than they've ever saved since like the 1980s. and realizing this is because of that, and just allocating your assets and realize that you will boom. What is your greatest daily to stay on top of the newest information around blockchain and crypto? The biggest secret is to get the latest news on anything is Twitter. Twitter actually has the latest news before it even hits any kind of news. No problem. But the blockchain and crypto is something, again, you got to be really careful of because there's still a lot of the stuff isn't regulated. So you really want to go after the main ones. I mean, I did say you should own some small portion of Bitcoin. Again, it's digital gold, essentially what it is. I mean, I can go on for hours just talking about technology things. I'm trying to talk about financial stuff, but just being aware, because I think all this stuff plays. You do need to know a little bit of economics. You do need to know about the world, right? And economics is really just paying attention to what's going on around you, right? And being aware. That's why I talk about being aware all the time, because you have to be aware of what's going on. And again, if you want the latest news, Twitter is where it's at. The headline news you get hours, days after the fact of it's already been out. It's already been circulated through Twitter before you even get it. This is why Twitter is such a powerful thing. I hated Twitter, but once I realized what kind of tool it was the best tool I've ever had. Because knowledge is power, and you get the best news right then and there as soon as it comes out. And realize that Twitter is also essentially used for news, right? Like every time people whip up their phone and start recording, all that stuff goes straight to Twitter. So you're getting it directly from them, as opposed to waiting for Fox or CNN, whatever you watch. Understand that the Twitter, right, is where the news is coming from direct, right? And when I talk about the way the world is changing with cryptocurrencies and everything, you have to understand that cryptocurrencies, again, eliminating the third man, essentially making you the bank. Imagine the amount of money that the banks make, right? You can make that for yourself in cryptocurrency. And that's what cryptocurrency is essentially establishing, is because the percentage rates, I could throw this out there. Cryptocurrencies, if you can essentially be a bank and lend out your crypto, or it doesn't even have to be crypto, it can be your money. You can put your money, which is a USDC coin, which is essentially called a stable coin. I can get into all different kinds of stuff about crypto, but which is a stable coin, is essentially just your dollar, a fiat dollar, essentially in a coin version of it that doesn't change. It doesn't fluctuate like Bitcoin, because if you hold any other coin, it's going to fluctuate dramatically. So being said, you have a stable coin, you can go on, they have different sites and stuff you can go on, and you can get, right now with everything going on, you could get, 5-10%, if not more. And I'm not even joking about crypto. Crypto right now is at such an infancy state, they're trying to get people on. Being said, again, you still have to be very, very mindful and very careful with it. Know people that deal in the space to be able to do it, but they have to have places. This is why I'm saying a regular savings account that you have, you get paid peanuts essentially, right? You get maybe, I think even my best bank, online banking, it was 100% online, was like 0.25 or something percent. We're like, man, that's good. If you ever been in the crypto space and realizing that 5% is like the minimum for holding crypto, and plus the fluctuation of that coin, depending what kind of coin it is, you can make this is why cryptocurrency is making multimillionaires. And it doesn't seem real, but being in there, diving, this is why I talk about go 5 whys deep, because understanding it, being a technologist, coming from the side of the house that I have, and understanding the technology, it is a real thing. And it is eliminating a lot of the middlemen. So you become your own bank, you make this money, right? And this is why I talk about, leveraging your money and why it's so important. You just got to have the know-how on how to do it, as opposed to, well, I need a minimum wage increase, right? Take the money you have, look for what's out there, like cryptocurrency, stocks, real estate. If you don't have the money, there's ways to get money, right? Like you can get crypto loans and stuff like that. And it's actually quite interesting because there's an app I use where I was just talking about doing loans, like right, like you can give out your own loans. I know there's a company that called Lending Club or something like that used to do this as well, where it was peer-to-peer lending. But crypto is the same way, where you can lend your money out, right? You could do an auto lend, so you essentially put it on there. Do I want 14 or 7, 14, and I think 28 days. And then every, when your loan comes up, you can even set your own percentages and how much you want to give your money out for. And then that person essentially would pay the interest on your money, right? So you are your own bank. And this is the power of what blockchain is doing, and why a lot of governments don't like this, right? Because you're eliminating the third person, where you can just peer-to-peer, I'll loan you some money, but this is the percentage I'm willing to give it to you for. And then you have, again, apps and stuff like this, companies like DeFi and stuff that hold your crypto, right? If you don't feel safe with your crypto, you buy it, you send it to them. Essentially, DeFi would essentially hold your crypto and then give you a percentage depending on what kind of coin you bought. Some of them fluctuate, right? The ones that are really, I've seen some really high ones that are like 100, 110% on your crypto. Yeah, those ones are a little bit too risky, right? So you got to realize that you want to do it, manage your risk and realize what's actually going on there. And so when I talk about like the crypto space, you need to really be careful and make sure it is in like the top 10 coins, right? There's sites. If you guys are interested in any of the stuff I talk about here, leave a message in a comment on something you want me to expand upon even more. But even like the DeFi place I'm talking about, essentially a bank that will take your crypto. It's like a crypto bank that will hold your stuff, but again, will pay you a way better percentage. I think the least I've seen is like 5% on whatever it is that you're holding. And they hold it for a allotted period of time. I think the minimum for the allotted period of time is like 28 days. You can't touch it. You have to allow that crypto to sit there for 28 days and accumulate whatever that percentage is. Then you can, I think you can reinvest it or have it keep going on. I mean, they have a whole different thing. If you want to actually look at it, again, it's called BlockFi, I believe, is the crypto bank that does that. But again, right now, these are the kind of things I like talking about on this channel, is to help you leverage your life up by giving you the know-how, right? Discovering possibilities, igniting change, whether that's health, finances, soft skills, right? It's leveling all these different things up and realizing that you are all that you need, and then stop feeding into the system about being a consumer, being a producer, realizing what you can do with the money and the stuff that you have. Right, and realizing that there's other possibilities out there, and realizing you don't have to go in through the front door, you don't have to go in through the back, but there's also many windows to get inside the building, right? And that's all you're trying to do is get inside the building, leverage yourself up, make the best version of yourself, and you need to know specific things that you aren't taught. And that's what I'm here to essentially do, is to help teach you guys different things that I've learned help me leverage my life up. And by doing that, again, today I would explain some different financial things. And now financial, again, that whole realm can go really deep, especially on the crypto side. I know a lot of people are interested on the crypto side, and even stocks are something I've been doing for quite a while. And stocks are another asset that a lot of people don't realize, that, this is where people talk about let your money work for you while you sleep. This is something that is real. This is something that is actually truly real, that you can do that. You put your money to work for you. So every dollar that you have is a soldier essentially working for you. And that's what you want to do, right? You want to help solidify, your lifestyle, right? And to be able to do that, especially we have a lot of older people that don't, right? I've worked with people that just couldn't do it anymore. Have a good night, Angela. But that being said, that's pretty much it. I know this has gone 34 minutes. It's gone really long. So being said, again, if you guys have any questions about anything else you want me to expand upon the next Ignite Thursday, if you want me to expand more about the financial realm, if you want me to talk about plant-based stuff, again, I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not a dietitian, right? I just go over the things that I've learned. I've taught myself. I go deep on these things. I go 5 whys deep I do as much as I can, and always learning, right? Everything's always changing, so you always got to be constantly learning as well. So I just, again, like to share that information with you guys. So being said, if there's no other questions, I appreciate you guys. And until next time, I will see you guys later.